Hello there, everyone. Welcome to this video. This is for our film class here in spring 2022. I'm just going to really quickly sum up what all you guys need to do in your presentations, what all goes into them, how to do a good job. Now, I will say this, for the most part, people in all of my previous film classes really have done well with this. The grades on this assignment in my classes past have been spectacular. If you do everything I tell you to do here, you will succeed with this assignment. So in a nutshell, your goal is to be the teacher that day. You are leading discussion on the film that we're talking about on that particular day. So in order to do that, there's several things that you need to do to prepare, okay? So as this prompt says, the assignment has several purposes. It requires you to think about a text more critically than normal. It has a small research components in becoming knowledgeable about the text and the author before class. And whenever we talk about author in this case, we're mostly talking about the director. I'll actually change that. And it helps you become an effective classroom citizen by engaging with your peers intellectually. So remember, this isn't a class where you're going to get away with never saying anything. Right? You have to put in your due diligence. This is a seminar. Everyone is an equal participant in a seminar. So I step back and become one of you. So on this particular day, you're the leader, okay? So this is an important skill that is a little bit lost on people nowadays, especially in all online classes, Zoom, or even other Zoom classes where people will oftentimes turn their mics and cameras off and never say anything. That's not what this class is. This class is all about having good conversations. So to prepare for your presentation, you need to view and familiarize yourself with the film ahead of time, along with doing appropriate background research. So I would say probably maybe even about a week before your presentation, watch the film. Maybe you want to watch the film twice. Maybe you would want to watch the film the first time to pick up on the plot. Maybe the second time you would want to watch it to pick up on the little things that's going on. That's something that I would definitely recommend if you're leading discussion on it that day. But whenever you're researching your film, as I say here, the website imdb.com is your friend. So you can look up the film. Whenever you look up a film on IMDb, it'll tell you who the director is. It'll tell you all the actors. You can kind of click around. You can click that director and see like what all movies that director has done. You can click the actors and see what other films those actors have done. So there's lots of things that you can do here in research, and this is stuff that you're going to be putting on your handout. But you will be creating a handout that will help aid your classmates and instructor in following your discussion. So as I say here in the handout criteria, there's two ways you can do this. I'm giving you two ways. You can either do this on Microsoft Word. That's a possibility. You can just arrange all your information that way. And then when you do your presentation, you can share your screen on Zoom. Or you can organize this in a PowerPoint slideshow. And pretty much everyone in my class last semester did a PowerPoint slideshow. But PowerPoints are usually a little bit cleaner, a little bit more user-friendly, especially for a Zoom class. But you will need to provide a handout if you're presenting that day, you're going to need to send me the handout probably at least about an hour ahead of time. Okay. And I will distribute your handout to the class. That way your classmates can follow along during your presentation. But some information that I kind of want here is when you're introducing the film, think about it mostly as you're introducing the film, okay? And you're giving lots of good information as well as setting us up for a good conversation. So in your first few moments of your presentation, introduce the major players of the film. Who is the director? What biographical aspects about the director are interesting and relevant to the text you're discussing? Whenever we use the word text, of course, it can mean films or books. What are some of the director's other known films? What sort of film techniques, genres, etc. is the director known for? Who is the film's composer? What other films has that composer worked on, and what is unique and innovative about that person's musical style? What about the movie's actors? What other roles are they famous for? What other big title films did these actors star in? So whenever you do this, I would say just list the major actors in the movies. You don't have to list like all 20 actors in the movie, no matter how minor the part. You can kind of focus in on the top 4 or 5 actors in the films. What about some other film contributors? So sometimes the role of the producer might be important. Maybe the screenplay writer is important. Like sometimes famous authors will write the screenplays, or sometimes the film will be way different than a famous author's book. Then I say include some of these as they are pertinent to the film. So give us a little bit of that. I would say here, don't drown us in the information. Whenever you're putting together a handout, just give us just enough on the handout to where it's not too distracting. You know, that's a general rule for a speech, is whenever you prepare a handout, don't overload the handout with information. Give us just enough, because if you write a book on like a PowerPoint slide, for instance, people will spend more time reading the slide than they will be paying attention to what you have to say. So give us minimal details. Give us just enough there to for us to go on. But I would like for you as well to maybe look up and think through maybe the historical and literary context of the film. Look to the date the film was published. What were some historical events happening in America that might have influenced the film? So I say here, for instance, films in the 1970s often were cynical due to the fallout from the Vietnam conflict. So the 70s cinema, especially horror films, are known for being extremely pessimistic and cynical. A lot of that was because of post-Vietnam fallout. So I ask you to maybe think through what's going on in the country at the time whenever the film was made, and maybe try to come up with some historical analysis here. But you can also do some other things too. So you can do some genre analysis. So like, where do you see the film's importance at in your genre? What sorts of awards did your film win? That's something else that you can think about here. Sometimes some of these films you'll find have won no awards, right? They were very underappreciated for their times. Some of these films have won a ton of Oscars. So it's going to wildly vary as we go through the course. But here's the most important part of the presentation, is this is when you introduce the film. So in order to do this, you definitely need to introduce some major themes in the film. So whenever we talk about film or theme, rather, a theme is the sort of the main central ideas of the film. So like what sorts of big questions does the film portray? Like what are the major ideas that the film raises? So as I film this video, the first movie we're getting ready to watch is One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. But in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, you can come up with some themes that I came up with. There's things like order versus chaos, right? McMurphy versus Ratchet. That's chaos versus order, right? Political power versus anarchy. The demasculinization of the patients from Nurse Ratched. The historical state of mental asylums at the time of the film, etc. There's tons more here. What are some major ideas that the film raises? So if you give us these, this will help sort of get the class's brains going, get them ready to talk about things that they're interested in after seeing the film. This will get the thought bubbles going for your fellow students. Then I'm asking you to think about what are some key scenes in the film. Point us to a few of them. So whenever you do this, I will ask you to cite where in the film that happened. So let's say that the scene that you're bringing up as a key scene, let's say that scene goes from 35 minutes in the film to 39 minutes in the film. That goes 4 minutes sort of in the middle of a movie. Whenever you cite your key scene, you would do it this way: 35:00 to 39:00. So pretty simple. But if you're watching the film on streaming service, or if you've rented it or something like that, you can provide that information that way. I would encourage you to maybe the film that you chose to analyze, I would say you probably should buy it, whether it's on a DVD or whether you buy it on Amazon or something like that, because this way you can easily access it later. And then what are some questions or controversies about the film that you can direct to the class? So what are some key discussion points that you think you can come up with? If you can get the class talking, if you can get the class involved, you can almost kind of take a step back after your presentation, and the class will almost sort of run itself. But even let's say that we get going talking, but maybe we finish a point, well, then you should kind of be prepared to take us to what's our next point. What's another element about the film we can discuss? So I'm going to be evaluating you based off your first 10 or 15 minutes introducing the film, but I'm also going to evaluate you based on how well you can sort of navigate and steer the conversation. What will I grade you on? The effectiveness of your handout. As I said, don't overload us. Give us what we need, but don't overload us. And your ability to engage intellectually with your peers. At minimum, the time that you're talking will be about 10 to 15 minutes. And then after that, we'll have a conversation and a discussion. Whenever we're talking about a Zoom class, professionalism is a little bit of a hard thing to gauge. Just look presentable from the waist up. Speak clearly and eloquently. Avoid using slang or colloquial phrases. So, of course, you don't have to be as proper as you would be maybe in a speech class, but do try to make yourself appear as a credible speaker. Like you might wear like a nice shirt, you go and you wearing pajama pants underneath, right? Because it's Zoom and we'll never know. But from the waist up, at least give us a very presentable appearance. I say this as I'm wearing a white t-shirt filming this video at 1:00 in the morning. Okay. But whenever you present your presentation, do try to appear agreeable. Okay. Don't look like you just rolled out of bed if you can help it. And then by the time we get to the film, we should maybe get to know each other a little bit, but just to be on the safe side, before you start, give some introduction to yourself. That will help establish you as a credible speaker to your audience. Then I say, make sure whenever we have the discussion, make sure the talk moves intuitively from one point to the next. If you change topics or even move from one presentation medium to another, it should not be jarring to the audience. So make your transitions between different ideas natural. Don't sort of ham-handedly do it. And so, as I said, I want to change this time on this prompt because I'm teaching this course at a different time this semester, 4 p.m. the evening of your presentation. So all of you guys at this point have signed up for your presentations. If you haven't yet, please do so. The link to that is on the discussion forum or is on Brightspace. So if you haven't signed up for your movie day yet, there's not many times left. So you'll have to pick what's left. Okay. So there's some good ones left on the list. Until next time, guys, take care. Please let me know if you have questions about this assignment.